When I heard that the moving Gundam that once stood tall in Yokohama would be reappearing at the World Expo in Osaka, I knew that I had to go there. And it would also be a great opportunity to finally go to Osaka itself, and of course, its famous Denden Town, the rival of Tokyo's Akihabara. But first things first, getting to the Gundam Pavilion. It's one of the pavilions that requires an advance reservation, and in typical Japanese fashion, these reservations are made through a lottery system. So to make sure that I got in, I used up my 5 lottery applications for just the Gundam Pavilion, with a different time slot for each application. And I did this for both days that I was going to the expo. As a result, not only did I get to go to the Gundam Pavilion once, I got to go twice, which was honestly really convenient because on my first visit, I could focus on filming things, and on my second visit, I could just admire the experience. So, starting from outside the pavilion. If you're entering through the west gate, it won't take you long to see the new and improved RX-78F00/E Gundam. It's like right around the corner. But for the people who saw this thing in action at the Gundam Factory Yokohama, the reunion will be bittersweet. Yes, it is the same Gundam, and it has some new tricks up its sleeve, but it doesn't have the same impact that it once had. Rather than standing tall and moving, it's now kneeling and won't be moving an inch. Instead, it'll periodically release some steam combined with a little light show. It's something, but during the day, this thing won't be wowing you in the same way that it managed to wow you in Yokohama. When night falls though, it does become more impressive thanks to the many lights that it's got, including in those new solar panel parts. So definitely don't forget to stop by when it gets dark, because it hits very differently. Oh, and next to the Gundam is a wall showing the history of the Gundam anime and of the life-sized Gundam statues. And that is what's available to people from the outside. So after a quick pit stop at the Australian Pavilion for a 4 and 20 meat pie, 10 out of 10, and a Cooper's Mild Ale, 3.5 out of 10, let's head to the Gundam Pavilion. The entire experience is presented to us as if we're going on a field trip to a space station that is known as Star Jabro, and it kinda reminded me a bit of the Star Tours attraction from Star Wars or the Gundam the Ride Abawaku attraction, but then without the motion simulator and with more walking. We start in a waiting room in the Umeshima terminal, where we're introduced to a world-building video that is disguised as an in-universe promotional video for the rebuilding project being spearheaded by the Gundam Open Innovation Consortium, or GOIC for short. This attraction takes place in an alternate universe of the Universal Century, where things have taken a much more peaceful turn, with former enemies now working together and former combat technology being used for everyday tasks, like beam sabers being used for agriculture.
宇宙での食料生産を拡張するためには、農作物の生育に不可欠な窒素資源の確保が課題です。そこでプラズマ技術を発展させ、農業用に改良したビームサーベルを使い、空気中の窒素から肥料を生産、植物の成長を促進し、病気に強く、より丈夫な作物を育てることに成功しました。
And if you missed anything, you also get a little brochure that has much of the same information as the video, and even more, like a little sticker sheet and a small but ominous warning that certain flight paths could experience hinder from newly formed space debris. Once everyone is lined up, we're escorted to the waiting room for the orbital elevator that will take us to Star Jabro. And first up, we're introduced to our 2 robot companions, a green Haro called X and a pink Haro called Po. And together, they form Expo. If you didn't think that joke was funny, don't worry, nobody laughed at the Expo either. video then continues to explain the basics of the orbital elevator and gives us some more world building. One thing that I did find funny then is that they addressed the one inconsistency that you might have noticed. Orbital elevators should be built at the equator, and we're currently about to take an orbital elevator in Yumeshima, which is not at the equator. And the answer is, don't question it, or else.
だけどここ赤道じゃないよね。今回は特別に夢島から出発するんです。何か問題でも。ああ、はい、わかりました。
After being threatened by a sentient bouncing ball, it's time to board the orbital elevators, complete with announcements that are reminiscent of Japanese train announcements. But we're not the only ones taking this orbital elevator. The Haros we were just introduced to will be hanging on for dear life on the outside of the capsule, and we've also got two Zakus tagging along last minute. And I really loved the interaction that Poe had with one of them. One of the Zakus was blocking our view, so Poe asked him to move out of the way. It's like a little thing, but it added a lot of character, and it really made this orbital elevator ride feel that much more real. When the orbital elevator then enters space, we don't just get an impressive change of scenery, but we're also treated to a lot of different mobile suits and mobile armors, which are all working together. We've got things like Balls, Augos, Guvigniteds, Gyaradogas, Zakus, Jims, Doms, Gelgooks, Jagans, and even some weaponless Musai classes, Salamis classes, and even straight up Arcana classes. What we don't have from here on out, though, is subtitles, and this is really unfortunate. You can kinda piece together the main story based on context clues, but it would have been cool if the main things that were being said were subtitled somewhere as well. There's a lot of talking going on that was completely lost on non-Japanese speakers. And there is a lot of empty space where they could have put subtitles for those conversations without ruining the immersion. But with that being said, we've now arrived at Star Jabro, and it's time to say goodbye to our Zaku buddies. We now go from the orbital elevator to a kind of observation deck on Star Jabro. Here we can see a lot of mobile suits working on a variety of things, and in universe, this was probably where the bulk of our little field trip was meant to happen. But remember that debris forecast that I talked about? Well, before long, some mysterious debris is spotted, and when some mobile suits go to take care of it, it turns out to be an enemy mobile armor, the MSN X17 Zeong Type MA, or simply put, the Zeong if it took some design cues from the Neo Zeong. This thing is an AI-controlled relic from the One-Year War, and it still holds a grudge, so it's hell-bent on destroying everything in its path. There's just one small problem. For us, all of the mobile suits around Star Jabro, including the ships, don't have any weapons, so despite putting up a very brave fight to defend us, they're absolutely powerless to stop the Zeong. But at the very least, they can buy us enough time for us to escape to the emergency pods. And the emergency announcement was made in English as well, so at least that was something.
All visitors, evacuate to the emergency pods. 皆さんが慌てずに移動してください。みんな、走らず、走らず、どんどん走って。Attention, all visitors to the star tower. An emergency has occurred. Please evacuate immediately and proceed to the emergency escape pod.
Also, if you pay attention to the overhead screens, the emergency pod is called the SPERP, or Self-Propelled Emergency Reentry Pod, which was made by Yashima Heavy Industries. Once inside of the pod though, we're still as defenseless as ever, and that Zeong is still out for blood. But just as all seemed lost, the RX-78 F00/E Gundam launches to intercept it. And seconds later, it even combines with the glass feather backpack. And what follows is a really nice battle that spans all of the screens of the capsule. For example, on one end, the Gundam might be dealing with the Zeong's main body, while on the other end, we've got some grunts dealing with one of its arms. And then if you look overhead, we've got some more grunts coming in to support us. And it was the same for both the observation deck and even the orbital elevator. Wherever you looked, there was something going on. So again, I was quite happy with being able to experience the whole thing twice. The first time, I could focus on what the Gundam was up to, and the second time, I could see what the grunts were doing. After this intense battle then, the Gundam safely guides us back down to Earth, and all's well that ends well. Oh, and about those grunts that were exploded trying to defend us, the brochure that we got at the beginning tells us that many of the mobile suits used at Star Jawbro are either AI controlled or remote controlled. So let's just say that those were the ones turned into space debris. But yeah, with the movie over, we could go outside again into the scorching Osaka sun. And here, we could admire a few more things before leaving the premises. The walls are adorned with fictional in-universe advertisements, there was a space colony made out of Gunpla runners, we could see the back of the Gundam, and there was also a section with messages left by fans. Someone is thankful for Nicola Malfi, and someone else is hoping for a future where every family can own a Gundam. I really hope we won't get this future. As for the merchandise, the only thing you could buy at the pavilion itself was the guidebook, which is also available at other places. And unfortunately, there's also no exclusive gift for buying it at the pavilion. Still, I did it because it felt cooler knowing that I bought this book at the actual Gundam pavilion. And the same goes for some of the other stuff that I got from one of the Expo's souvenir stores. I got the 1/144 scale RX-78 F00/E Gundam with glass feather unit, which I know isn't an Expo exclusive, And I also got acrylic stands of the Zaku, the Jim, and the Zeong, which might be Expo exclusives, but I'm not sure. Nor do I really care, because what matters to me is that I bought them there, and that they will be reminding me of the great time I had at both the Gundam Pavilion and at the Osaka World Expo as a whole, despite the former not having any subtitles and despite the latter being way too hot. It was a perfect excuse to eat a lot of ice cream though. Oh, and something that I also tried was seeing how the Gundam looked from atop the Grand Ring. But unfortunately, my efforts were in vain. At eye level, I could barely see the top of its head, and I had to raise my arms all the way up to snap this picture. As for the rest of the day, I didn't have any other particular pavilions that I needed to visit, so I just kinda walked around taking in the sights, and then I discovered that they had 2 Spy Family food collaborations. I had your spicy chicken leg and yours black hamburger with chips. And I'm not talking British chips here from Fish and Chips, I'm talking straight up potato chips, which for some reason is something that I've seen a couple of times in Japan, just randomly replacing French fries with potato chips. But anyways, like I said at the beginning, while I was in Osaka, I of course had to check out Denden Town. I didn't have too much time because I had a lot of other things planned, but I also don't think I needed that much time to check everything out. The area is much smaller than Tokyo's Akihabara, meaning that there's less to do and to see, and it's also much less flashy. You'll know you're in Denden Town, but you really know when you're in Akihabara. But size ain't everything. As much as I hate to admit it, Denden Town does have Akihabara beat in a few key areas. Denden Town has always been less crowded than Akihabara, but with the recent tourist boom, this difference has become even more noticeable. Not only did this make for a more pleasant shopping experience, but it also meant that it was easier to find good prices for popular items. Just be warned though, that this doesn't mean that every shop you enter is going to be cheap, nor does it mean that you're going to find crazy good prices. But it's not just about prices. I also saw some really cool displays, everyone's favorite legally distinct Mario Karts, and there even was a maid cafe. So yeah, while I do still prefer roaming the streets and alleyways of Akihabara, I can totally see why people prefer the more pocket-sized, but still fully featured Denden Town. And to wrap things up, I also found a gachapon machine for these Haro and Gundam SD figures, I had a tonkotsu ramen that was more pork than noodle, and I randomly came across this T-Rex in front of a store. I don't know either. And that was my trip to the Gundam Pavilion, and a very abbreviated version of the rest of my Osaka trip. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.